Hi, Deacon Ed McCormick here at St. John the Baptist Catholic Community. And this coming Sunday, we will be celebrating Pentecost Sunday. And that's the feast when we remember that God the Father has sent the Holy Spirit to us through Christ. And in anticipation of that feast, I've decided to offer you a brief series on the Holy Spirit. What is the Holy Spirit? Who is the Holy Spirit? And so today I want to talk to you about the Holy Spirit in the Old Testament. It can be a mistaken assumption by Christians that the first time the Holy Spirit shows up is on Pentecost Sunday, after Jesus has been crucified and raised from the dead. And that would be a grave misunderstanding and a shame. So I want to help you to expand your understanding and vision of the role of the Holy Spirit by first of all discussing the ways in which the Holy Spirit was active according to the Old Testament. And this starts with the book of Genesis in chapter 1, that beautiful poem at the very beginning of the Bible, where we hear about this mighty wind over the deep right before God creates. And the Hebrew word for the Spirit of God is ruach, ruach. And that word can mean wind, it can mean breath, it can mean spirit. And so the author of Genesis tells us right before God creates, the Spirit of God, a mighty wind was blowing over the waters. And then in chapter 2, when God creates mud person, right before Adam and Eve are created, God has fashioned like a potter this person, and then God breathes into this creature, and all of a sudden he becomes a living being, a person. And so right away at the beginning of the book of Genesis, you get two references to the Holy Spirit. The Spirit is there at the creation of the cosmos, and the Spirit is there giving life, giving existence to all of humanity. And the idea here is that the Holy Spirit is the creative power of God. It's the way in which God creates all things, the divine creative energy at work in the cosmos. And this Spirit then is found in many other places in the Old Testament. I just want to indicate a couple. First of all, anytime you see the prophets speaking, anytime you hear a prophet raised up like Amos, or Hosea, or Elijah, or the call of Isaiah, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, all of these great prophets, these were these poets and people who did not predict, they're not predicting the future, they're actually sent by God in the power of the Spirit to speak a word from God to God's people. And that word is to call them back to the covenant community. So you have the Holy Spirit at work in creation. You have the Holy Spirit raising up prophets, inspiring them to speak a powerful word from God. And then you get promises made by some of the prophets, especially Ezekiel in chapter 36, and you get Jeremiah, I think it's in chapter 26. And then you get the prophet Joel. In all three of these prophets, they promise that one day in the future, God will pour out God's Spirit on God's people. And they'll be given new hearts. God will take out their stony hearts and they'll be given a new heart. God's Spirit will be poured in them, and God's law will be inside of them, and they will know God from within. It won't be this external imitation. And you get this promise from Ezekiel, you get this promise from Jeremiah, and then in Joel, the prophet Joel, he says, in the future, one day God will pour God's Spirit upon all people. And so you get this prophetic promise that one day there'll be a new age in which God's Spirit is poured out, not just on a few prophets, but on all of God's people. The final significant place in which you hear about the Spirit of God referenced in the Old Testament is Ezekiel chapter 37. The Babylonians have come and surrounded the city of Jerusalem. They've destroyed the walls and the temple, and they've deported just about everybody but the poor. And all these Jews from Jerusalem are now living in Babylon. And it looks like the nation has died. The nation is dead. And the big question for the people of Israel in exile is, will we live again? Will God restore us and renew us as a nation and bring us home? And Ezekiel has this vision of a valley. And in the valley are all of these bones, dead human bones, skulls and arms and legs. And he experiences God telling him that a wind and a breath will breathe upon these bones. And when this wind and breath, like the one at Genesis, breathes on these bones, they start to click and clack together. And all of a sudden, tendons and skin start to grow. And it's the resurrection of the nation of Israel, which is, of course, in anticipation of the resurrection that we believe in. So, my friends, I want to leave you here with the sense that the Holy Spirit didn't just come at Pentecost. The Spirit is associated with God creating all things. The Spirit is associated with powerful prophetic witness and powerful prophetic words. The Spirit is what God promises God will do when God creates a new people and a new world. And it's associated with the resurrection. I'll see you in the next video.